south of us, you can see the primary border wall that is just on the opposite side of some of those homes and some of the businesses that are along the border on the U.S. side.
The first detention center that we went to, the private detention center that we went to, um, it was a building, it was a building with barbed wire and a parking lot. Like we didn't, we had to imagine what was happening on the inside, and we had to, we knew there were people behind those walls. Um, and we knew that they were being abused and mistreated, and that, that they had been through hell and back. Um, and so the witnessing that we did was witnessing the infrastructure of detention.
It was the way in which business as usual seemed to be the order of the day. I was expecting loudness and chaos, and I was expecting to encounter border guards, but actually, for the most part, we didn't see any of that. We saw empty streets, quiet buildings, paved walkways. It felt like America as usual, and that was probably the most horrifying part.
The use of the narrative of national security is the way that this is being handled. Is a dehumanization of people and treating them like cattle, like merchandise, like things that are expendable, which is very cruel and hard to see.
We'll wait for everyone to gather, and then I'll share some brief remarks, take questions, and then I think it's time to get back on the bus. Okay, so I'm going to tell you a story, and then I'm going to continue later. And it's the story of Anastasio Hernandez Rojas, a longtime member of the San Diego community. They decided to deport him in an irregular process. They put him in a car, and they took him here, and they took him to this area, which has been reconstructed, but we can still see the area between the two walls. At the time, there was another pedestrian bridge that hung over those two walls, and the pedestrians could see what was going on down below. He was in custody. He was surrounded by 17 agents, and he was brutally beaten, tasered, tortured, and ultimately killed.
This horrible case of Anastasio, which is one of probably many cases of complete and utter cruelty with people. It was just heart-wrenching.
Whiskey 8 is where we realized that in January of 2023, Border Patrol agents were forcing people to remain in this area. When we realized that people were there for multiple days, that they were not being provided with any food or water, that we decided that it would be important we did not want to see people suffer more than what they were already suffering, and so water was a basic element of responding to that situation.
We saw the border wall itself, but we also saw the multiple walls and the space in between. And to then hear the stories of resistance that came about as a result of that, utterly inhumane, just dark stain on our country, on this country. We then went to Chicano Park, where we learned the story of Anastasio. We learned more about the story of Anastasio and the mural that has been commissioned and that is in the works, and that is absolutely incredible, that Alliance San Diego has been involved with, and we learned about their sort of fight back story.
There were times where we would, have a little lagrimita, like a little tear or something. We would hug each other even. But I think that the main sentiment was inspiration from the people that were giving us the tour.
So eight parcels, and the 10 acres that make up that street behind it, all being developed together.
At the end of the day, we spent time with activists, communities that have faced the fragmentation that comes from our immigration system, who gathered up the pieces and built a community center.
We get to Pana, and here we see a vision for a truly liberated future in which every community from all parts of the world, every diaspora, every community that, lands in San Diego is able to, be, show up as its full self. Nothing says freedom like being able to show up as your full self. The tour as a whole, the every piece of it, the morning, afternoon, and evening had, kind of an arc that I don't even know how intentional it was. I'm sure it was, but just the extent to which the arc itself of the day told a powerful story, not only of the conditions themselves and what we're up against and the stakes, and the human cost of that, but also the stories of resistance in the here and now, and the stories of resistance in the future, in the sense that we were able to kind of imagine a future beyond the horrors that we're witnessing because of the stories that were told through the partners on the ground.
For me, that experience of being there with these different groups of people that are in very different ways working on issues that are as emotionally charged, but so focused on the humanity and the fundamental rights of the humans that we work for, um, um, makes me realize the relevance of the cohort, or the relevance of that working together, because we're going to learn so much from each other. There is so much I could tell them and they can tell me to enrich what we do.